Yeah, it is another episode of the Auto Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto, Rory Parsons.
What's up, boys?
Game show. The Raiders Patriots preseason game, final preseason game for the Raiders. 4 of them, right? Because they got the Hall of Fame game. Still underway, balls deep into the fourth quarter, but they're basically a bunch of players fighting for practice squad spots. So we thought, let's hop on. Raiders up 16-6. They'll eventually move to 4-0 in the preseason for whatever that's worth. It's less about the record and more about how they performed. There's a lot to digest, a lot of individual performances to look at. But Rory, we'll start with you. Just overall, for whatever you can get out of preseason performances from a team as a whole, I think it's 90% super positive what the Raiders showed up.
Unbelievably positive. I texted you guys earlier. I said, I think this might be the best preseason we've ever had. Would you agree with that? Like, I can't imagine a better preseason. The only thing that we didn't get answered was the whole right tackle, right guard situation.
Which is kind of like banging the skinniest chick from Wisconsin, but it's still an accomplishment.
I like a move stick, bro. Don't trip.
I know you
There's some good-looking girls in Wisconsin, dude.
Yeah, don't front.
That's what
just
we got.
saying.
Was the good-looking
Just
girl
saying.
in Wisconsin. Yeah.
But seriously, though, I mean, honestly, I can't think of anything that we didn't have answered this preseason. We saw the McDaniels is competent. The defense, Patrick Graham, every single game he shows more and more. You know, he shows nickel blitzes, he shows linebacker blitzes, and they get home. They're well executed. Love what I've seen from Patrick Graham's defense. Minimal penalties. No, knock on wood, no crazy injuries whatsoever. It's just been a perfect preseason.
Was there a single? Did we give up a single turnover? One or two turnovers in 4 games.
Yeah, it's incredible.
None today. None in the Hall of Fame game. So yeah, so that's what I'm saying is it's kind of like, obviously, you know, it's a lot of backups, you know, a lot of things like that. But as far as just like the cultural things we're looking for, the flying to the ball, not shooting yourself in the foot, just general kind of what we thought McDaniels at his best would bring to the Raiders. Don't shoot yourself in the foot. Don't make mistakes. Articulate and nuanced game plans, offense and defense. And then obviously we have one of the best special teams units in football. And it all showed as much as you can show before the real stuff happens.
Yeah, I mean, look, we did answer a big question at right tackle. We found out who wasn't going to be the right tackle. And finding out who the guy is just as it's just important to find out who the guy isn't.
Yeah.
You know for a fact now that Leatherwood is not going to be starting, maybe not even a swing tackle or anything like that. For me, you guys said, oh, what about the dead money? I heard that on the text. I'm like, dude, he's a dead body. You cannot win with a player like that. You're one injury away from that trash being a starter, from that garbage. So all the shit you've done penalty-wise and being sharp and all this shit goes to waste when you can't protect your quarterback. And I don't think that we can have him on the field.
An $11.7 million dead money hit, unless we can get someone to pick up that contract or part of that contract. And I think he's still playing. Like, we're deep into the fourth quarter, and I think Leatherwood's still on the field. So,
dude, this is the all fucking XFL team right now that's playing. That's what these guys are playing for. These guys are auditioning for the fucking XFL.
When they reignite NFL Europe, these are the guys they're going to go to for backup.
No, the XFL is the next one to kick off. This is going to be what these guys are playing for.
I think Josh McDaniels is going to leave Leatherwood out there, like, when the lights are already off and both teams are on the bus. He's like, no, Leatherwood, just stay on the field and keep pretending to block somebody, because it's basically the same thing. You didn't block anybody. It was bad.
God, that Millen popping off like he thought the mic was dead. He's like, yeah, Leatherwood, not good. He's not good.
This is the thing. He's gotten worse. Like, we knew he wasn't good. He's gotten worse. Like, he was at least I would say he was an average pass blocker guard last season. Like,
he was below average. The numbers
terrible pass block or run blocker. He was at least like an average run blocker guard last season.
Average, yes.
Now he's
like worse than that now.
Trash at everything. He's an open turnstile.
Yeah, I showed 100%. it on his run blocking, how easily his face was crossed. He was just tossed. He had the leverage on the guy, and the guy just outmuscled him, and that's just absolutely ridiculous for a guy that size to be thrown around like that. Just because you have the physical attributes to play a game doesn't mean you can play it well. And Leatherwood just showed it.
100%.
Stephen Williams says trade Leatherwood for a 4th or 5th round pick.
Bro,
If Dave Ziegler can get a 4th or 5th round pick for Alex Leatherwood, crown him GM of the year.
Stephen Williams, I will trade Leatherwood for a mismatched bag of nuts and bolts right now.
I trade Leatherwood for half a pizza and a 40. Like, so this is honestly
shit, a 40.
There it is.
Delicious.
Right? Best, like, seriously, what's the best case scenario we could get for Leatherwood? Like
Conditional 7th.
A conditional 7th.
Yeah.
I think even then we'd have to eat some of his salary. I think it'd be like conditional 7th.
I'd be fine with
we'd have
it.
to, like, split salary.
I would be fine with it. I'll take a quarter of the salary. You take the rest. I'd be perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
Because that money you're spending, you're buying a better player. Because even if you eat that whole money, like I said, you're one injury away from him being on the field, man. We can't have that. We can't have him on the field at all. Even the threat of him being a backup, we just can't have it, man. We just can't.
He's never going to be a right tackle. He could be a right guard, but he's not even our best backup right guard. And our starting right guard is Lester Cotton. Like, holding a place for him on this team is taking a place away from someone else who's going to perform better. Which is crazy to say that about a first-round pick in his second year. Like, he's worked hard this offseason. Apparently, he got in better shape. You saw him working on his pass sets. His technique was a little better. Dude, he is so far off from being where he needs to be to compete in the NFL. It's crazy.
Is there any... But this is the thing. You got to imagine, you know how NFL head coaches and GMs are. It's like, well, those guys just know what they're doing. Don't know what they're doing. We could turn them into something. Do you think that there's any GMs or head coaches or O-line coaches that are looking at him and like, all right, he's got the physical he's big, right? Comes from Alabama. Physical tools are there. Do you think anyone is thinking, all right, 2 regimes just couldn't coach him up. We could turn him into something decent. Do you think anyone's out there looking at that way?
I think that anyone's looking out. Someone will take a flyer on him on a practice squad, but not on their 53. I don't think there's any way with the tape that he put up. It's irresponsible to have him on your squad. He's
played one season of football, right? It's like you could be that bad and come back and play in the NFL, right? We've seen worse, right? We've seen guys start off worse than Alex Leatherwood, and still be an NFL player.
I have not seen a player start off worse on the offensive line than Alex Leatherwood. And be a starting caliber type player. Not
starting caliber. I said an NFL player. Like, you can be on the roster for 7 or 8 years.
Okay, then let's be more specific. Then he is a career backup, floating on the active to non-active roster. And at this point, I think we're in a win now mode. And with the shape of the rest of the offense, if we had like a killer offensive line, he was just the sore spot. Maybe the guys around him had the experience and the skill level to kind of pick up the slack a little bit. We don't have that luxury. We need to have serviceable players, at least steady Eddies, like an Illuminor. He's a steady Eddie, and I'm cool with Illuminor starting. Steady Eddie, great. He's not going to make the flashy, but he's not going to pancake guys and do all this shit, but he's not going to get whooped on either. So I don't see any way possible at this time. Leatherwood, go to the XFL, go to the USFL, show that you can play against lesser competition, show that you've gotten some experience and gotten better, and then we can talk. But right now, you're putting your franchise in harm's way by having Leatherwood pass protect for you.
Rich Gannon said a really good quote at the end of the game. He said, you can help one guy on the offensive line, you can't get help for 2 guys. There's honestly...
What else are you going to say?
That's it. But you mentioned Illuminor. Like, that's our starting right tackle going into the season right now. And honestly, if it wasn't Khalil Mack and Bosa against him, I'd feel real good about it. I actually am really high on him. I know you think he's a steady Eddie. I think he could be more. I listened to the press conferences and I drank the Kool-Aid. He was an incredible left tackle in the preseason, didn't allow pressures, slid over to right tackle today in the first quarter and held his own against Judon, who's no scrub. So I actually feel pretty good about him. Yeah, he is. He really is.
So 90% of what we saw today was positive, and I'd say of the remaining 10% that was negative, 9% of it was Leatherwood. So if there's anything else on Leatherwood you guys want to get off your chest, because now we're going all positive from here on out. Anything else on Leatherwood you want to say before we move on?
Well, I want to say one more thing that's not positive before we go on to all the positive stuff. Amik Robertson is peaks and valleys, man. He makes some nice plays out there, but he also he puts some very uneven film out there.
And when you're that small, you have to be super consistent. When you're that tiny, like if you're that small, you're just like, all right, that I can make this roster. I can play well on defense because I'm just technique is sound, no brain farts, because you can't make it up with
Dude,
size.
the running back, he met the running back in the hole and he whiffed. He didn't even touch him.
Yeah.
Almost lost my shit.
I like how you said it. The peaks and valleys are too severe. It's not that he doesn't have good moments. It's that he mixes it with just pure shit. You know, he's on the bubble. It'd be really interesting to see if they bring him back.
All right, so here was the starting offense, courtesy of our of Tashawn Reed of The Athletic. Stidham obviously starting for, he's set in stone as the backup behind Derek Carr. Zamir White, the starting running back. Tyron Johnson, Dylan Stoner, DJ Turner. The three guys, I think, on the bubble with the most to make the roster at wide receiver. Nick Bauer, Jesper Horsted. I thought for sure Bowers had the number 3 tight end spot locked up. Horsted had a pretty good day. And then this looks like it might be our starting offensive line, with the exception of left tackle, obviously, right? Jackson Barton, John Simpson, Andre James, Lester Cotton, and Jermaine. You think that's going to be our starting 5 plus,
Miller.
Obviously Miller on the left side?
Yeah, you got a Barton at the swing. You got Parham at the swing, and whoever you want to use for the third offensive lineman. I mean, it is what it is, man. And it looks like that's going to be our group. Get them together, room them next to each other, give them all or give Miller, the captain of the offensive line, give him that loaded gift card for freaking Dave and Buster's, and have them go fucking have fun with each other. Freaking start bonding.
I like him. I mean, this is what it is, right? Going into the season, it's all Gannon and Miller we're talking about. Are we going to have enough on the offensive line to be able to give Carr the time he needs to carve people up? And we don't really know for sure. But I draw back to what we did at the end of last season. Like, besides Brandon Parker and obviously Lester Cotton, this is essentially the starting left line that we finished the year with, that beat the Chargers and, almost beat the Bengals. So I'm confident in Colton Miller, John Simpson, Andre James. Lester Cotton was kind of an up and down preseason, to be honest. He had some really good moments, but he also had some big time mistakes, especially on stunts and things that kind of just take time and communication and chemistry. And then is Illuminor going to be good enough to go up against Mack or Bosa one-on-one? Even with help, with a RB chip or a tight end or a wide receiver, are they going to be good enough? That's the big question mark.
So this O-line, I think, played pretty well today. I mean, obviously with the exception of Leatherwood. I think generally the O-line played above expectation today, and against mostly ones of the
almost the whole
Pats
first
defense,
half, yeah.
Right. So that was my number one concern was O-line, right? More than will Josh McDaniels figure out how to be a head coach, more than who's going to be our corners and safeties, more than depth. Like, number one thing was O-line. I am much more confident in our O-line after preseason, way less confident at right tackle, if that makes sense. At the O-line as a whole, I'm like, okay, a little more optimistic than I thought. Right tackle is far worse of a situation than I thought. But like you said, like that's something you can scheme around. You can scheme around one bad lineman. But if they're playing cohesively as a unit, I brought it up in the show multiple times, right? Bill Barnwell did the article about how, the 10 O-line that stayed together for an entire season, like 8 of them went to the Super Bowl, right? I think that's the mindset of Mick Ziegler. I think that's their thought process. A bunch of young guys, they're going to play together, 7 or 8 dudes that can jive, alternate, work well together. We can make that work. No one of them is going to be some all-star, some all-pro, or someone amazing, but if we can get them all working together, they're going to be young, playing for several seasons. I think that's their recipe for success. I don't know if it's going to work, but I think that's their mindset. A bunch of young guys we're going to groom together, and they're going to build that synergy and be something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much hope you had for Parker or Leatherwood that has you like so much of a worse spot at right tackle. I'm much more confident in our right tackle.
Leatherwood
now.
got worse.
No, what I'm saying is, how high of a hope did you have coming into the preseason that now you're a little less confident in our right tackle?
I thought Leatherwood would improve. I thought he'd go. Most players make that jump, right?
Yeah.
Rookie year to second year.
Well-
That's normally the biggest jump for a player. Like, he should improve.
Yeah.
He went-
As far as the position though, I'm much more comfortable with Illuminor now than if Leatherwood would have played like he did last year, which was better than this year.
Mm.
I'm gonna give this guy a shout out real quick because he's got a sick ass name. Elroy Hegwood. This sounds like a man who's got like some dank weed, some good scotch, and knows how to smoke a brisket.
He's got a name sweet enough to be on the Raiders, the sweetest named team going right now.
That's a safety right there, Elroy Hegwood. All day.
That's a
You
safety.
got the best names on this team.
So good. Hey, so
Divine
question:
Diablo, Maxx,
is
Crosby,
it still Cable's fault?
Rock Yassin. It's his fault for drafting him.
God damn.
Yeah.
That's
His
true.
fault for drafting him.
Well, Narmash Thrath, there you go.
Alex Leatherwood's stink is so bad that even all the good things we did, it's still just constantly in the room. It's like he farted in the room 3 hours ago, and we're like partying, having a great time, but like the smell of Alex Leatherwood, you just can't get it out. It's like in the carpet.
For like
the
a
curtains.
year, I think on my whole third grade year, I farted in my brother's pillow before we went to sleep. Because like we would always race to go upstairs to like brush our teeth. He's like 2 years older than me, so he always won. So I was like, all right, bitch. So I freaking farted on his pillow like every single day. And he would always like be like, oh, did you fart? And it's like stuck in his pillow. That's the stench that we get from Leatherwood. Just touching the field.
There were some we started off so strong, right? Great defensive plays, turnovers, moving the ball. There were a lot of like Pats shooting themselves in the foot that we took advantage of that I think we kind of gave ourselves credit for. Like Kuntz got a sack, but he was like pushed into it. Like the guard came to chip him and like pushed him into a sack. That was one. Which linebacker had that pick?
Masterson.
Masterson. That was
Luke.
thrown right at him. Like Jones was just like right at him, right? So like, he still took advantage of it, right?
That's
Caught
scheming,
it, right?
man. That's scheming right there. You have to be able to
Yeah.
scheme your guy in the right position because obviously the quarterback didn't see him or he wouldn't have thrown it.
But there's a little bit of luck about it, right? Let's not bullshit ourselves. Like, there's a little bit of luck, but ultimately, how many times did we see a pick hit someone's hands last year and then drop to the fucking ground?
Yeah.
Like, he was in the right position to make the play because the scheme had him drop down in that shallow zone. He had his eyes on the quarterback where it should have been. He caught the ball, clean hands, and then broke forward, and the whole team got in front of it. Like, that's all you can do. You know, if the play's there, make the fucking play.
Well, also,
Mac
too,
Jones had
is
no
like
pressure either. It was just a
bad throw.
didn't see
Bad
didn't see the
read.
guy.
I mean, look, the Pats got a couple of touchdowns called back for penalties, but how often do we let those teams still score touchdowns after penalties? Often.
Right.
At least now we're holding them and doing what we're supposed. We're doing the things we're supposed to do, so our talented players can break us over the edge. Because the gap between a great team and a bad team in the NFL, it's not that big. They're all elite athletes. It's, are you going to beat yourself? Are you going to take advantage of mistakes? Are you going to make the play when it needs to be made? And that's the big difference. Is we look sharp, we look sound, we're on the hop. We're not looking around. No one's looking around in the backfield. No one's looking around in the defensive backfield. No one's looking at me, you, me. Who's taking that guy? Nobody's like, the quarterback's not pulling out and like looking around like, okay, wait, I can't hear or I didn't hear or whatever. Everything's sharp. We're snapping the ball with 10 seconds left every single time. We know what we're supposed to do. We're lined up right. That's a big part of winning.
The Raiders scored again on the back of Brittain Brown. He had some good runs, that Brittain Brown today. Probably won't make the squad, but someone will pick him up. Raiders now up 23-6 with a minute 47 left. Another dominant win in the preseason. 4-0 now in the preseason for those of you who maybe we'll make T-shirts. I don't know. We'll see. What else? The special teams. We almost never talk about it because it's just like
So
clockwork now. Daniel Carlson makes his second field goal of the night, this time from 50 yards out to cap off a 5-play, 43-yard drive. Carlson is now 8 for 8 on field goals this preseason. We were talking on the show on Wednesday, Soto, about how Bill Barnwell was saying, well, one of the reasons why we think the Raiders are going to regress is they got real lucky in the kicking game. I don't think it's not luck. It's Daniel Carlson is that clutch. He is that consistent. He does have that leg and worth every dime we paid him.
100%.
Yep.
Without question.
AJ Cole the same way.
That 50-yarder had 15 yards to spare. AJ Cole, he had 2 punts for 63-yard average tonight, and it's been the same way all preseason.
63-yard
average.
Average.
It's our kicking game. I'd say is as good as it can be in the league. There isn't anyone I'd trade either one of those two dudes for. It's the return game. We have had a couple of big returns against us this preseason, but it's kind of you want to get that shit out the way. The return game. DJ Turner's been a nice little lift too. I think that could put him over the edge, and he could make the squad based on that. To be honest.
Well, yeah, our special teams, like our coverage, we're constantly trying different guys at gunner too. So
right.
I think once we get the solid guys that are going to be the guys outside, I think we're going to be okay as far as coverage goes. But when you have weapons like the kickers we have, again, when you're not beating yourself and you're putting, making the defense take long fields and make multiple plays because you're keeping everything in front of you, it can go a long way.
Who do you think
Rory
made
pounds his
just
keyboard with
crushing
a
the
hammer?
keyboard?
Ooh, sorry.
Jesus.
Soto's talking about pounding himself. Rory's pounding that keyboard. Let's go around the horn.
Vaseline.
Just today, who made the best case for themselves today? And it can be either someone you thought that wasn't going to make the roster, and now they are. Someone who you thought, they went from third string to second string. Someone you think that would be nothing, and maybe they're a practice squad guy. Is there one guy today that you thought did the most for himself? You go first, Rory.
It's Deshaun Bauer. And it wasn't just today, it's all preseason. 4 sacks in the preseason, unless he's added more since we got on air. That's leading the preseason. It's the most sacks since Cameron Wimbley. Remember that guy?
Yep.
Yeah.
Cameron Wimbley. So, that was one of the big questions this preseason. It was, do we have enough in terms of like a defensive end rotation to add pass rush behind Chandler Jones, who is a little bit more injury prone than Ngakoue was? And, is Malcolm Coots going to be that guy? Who was that going to be? Is it going to be Cleveland Farrell? And I think Coots has answered the call. Like he's been productive. And then Deshaun Bauer looks really good against both the run and the pass. Like he's got some pass rush wiggle. He's a big dude. And honestly, across the board today, we were much better in the trenches than we were against the Vikings. And he's a big reason for that.
Yeah, I would say Bauer, of course. Masterson solidified himself. He's not going to just be on the roster. He's going to be a rotational. He's going to get some gameplay. Turner as well. He returned, a punt and had a little bit of wiggle to him and got, made the first guy miss. And honestly, that's really all you could ask for as a punt returner is make that first guy miss because you never know what's going to open up. But again, on the negative side, I hate to keep pounding on it, but Leatherwood showed his case why he should not be on the roster.
I was going to say Masterson, so to be different, but I do truly believe in this. I'm going to say Tyron Johnson has solidified himself as he's that speedster that we need. He is that speedster. That 45-yard reception that he got, if that wasn't grossly underthrown, it would have been
that was a Derek Carr underthrown, Depot.
Oh, fuck. Here we go. I'm out.
That would have been a 70-yard touchdown if it was thrown correctly, right? And still he got 45 yards. And he is that guy that we need, right? Renfrow, stud, not a speedster. Adams, stud, not a speedster. And he's that speedy guy that can do that. And we've been talking about forever, Josh McDaniels likes his specialists. He likes a varied toolbox, right? It was John Gruden was I want a 3-down back. I want a Josh Jacobs who's a bell cow. And he's I'll take 7 running backs and they all do something different. Thank you very much, right? And I think that's what Tyron Johnson did. So off the back of that, you guys want to play a little 53?
Sure.
The 53-man roster? Because things heated up a little bit. So 2 quarterbacks, right? That's easy. No problem. Running back. Jacobs for sure. I feel like Zamir solidified himself.
Yeah.
Abdullah, Bolden, and Brown's not even on here.
Yeah, I think they take those 4 plus the fullback, Jakob. So it means Brittain, Brown, and Walter going to the practice squad, which I think is a damn good practice
Jakob's
squad.
Jakob's for sure. He's the only
fullback, yeah.
Okay.
And his name is Jakob.
Right?
Yeah.
Jakob Janssen. I really wish it was Janssen. So it'd be Jakob Janssen instead of Jakob Johnson. That alliteration. Wide receiver. Adams, no-brainer. Renfrow, no-brainer. Hollins, no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
No-brainer. So now the question is, do we keep 5 or 6 wide receivers? We should probably end with wide receiver because I think it's going to be like because that's our deepest position, and they're going to keep as many as they can based on how many positions they have left, right? I feel like that's their strategy. Like they want to keep all these guys, basically, right? Minus Zuber, minus Stoner, but they want to keep Adams, Renfrow, Hollins, Johnson, Turner, Cole. I mean, you'd want those guys on your team, right? None of those guys you're like, oh, fuck him, right? But do you keep 5 or 6?
Keelan Cole's a really interesting one, man. If you would have told me at the start of this preseason that DeMarcus Robinson and Keelan Cole were both going to not make the roster, like, can you even imagine that conversation? But it's looking that way. Like, Keelan Cole was still playing deep into the third quarter. He might have still been playing in the fourth quarter.
He was playing in the fourth still, yeah.
Which is crazy.
I keep saying it. It's your name is great, but what do you put on the field? And that's what you have to take a look at. It's the last preseason game, and he's still in the fourth quarter. What is he trying to still prove, either to the coaching staff or to other coaching staffs in the league, of what he can do? If he was on the roster, he wouldn't be out there.
Yeah. So I guess that's the question, right? How many you're keeping, and then who is if it's only 5, who's the odd man out of the 3 between Johnson, Cole, and Turner?
If you go off production of what we've seen, I think Cole's the guy the odd man
Off
out.
preseason only, Cole's definitely not the guy, right? Off
Also,
preseason
too,
exclusively.
you have to take a look at who's playing in the end of games and who's playing against better competition and who's performing. And not only is Turner and Johnson, not only are they playing early in the games against better competition, but they're producing.
Johnson, I think, is a lock, honestly. I think he's put himself in that position where he's a lock now. So
After
it's
today,
DJ Turner.
Pretty good.
Yeah. It's Keelan Cole or DJ Turner. Is there more dead cap if we get rid of Keelan Cole right now, or was it a small 1 year? Because that could be the decider, honestly, with the amount of dead cap that we're eating right now.
Mm-hmm. Tight end's interesting too, right? Waller and Morrow, no brainer. And then do you keep? I thought for sure it'd be Bowers and Hornstead would be gone. Hornstead? Maybe you keep 4 with how many 2 tight end
no
sets? I think that they're going to be using.
I don't think so.
No,
No.
Nah.
I don't think so.
practice squad him.
Yeah, if we
Practice
can.
squad Hornstead.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. I think you keep Horstead over Bowers.
Really?
Yeah. Just based on preseason, this is the thing. Like, we're not seeing training camp or anything like that, but Bowers had a penalty today. Horstead had a good game against the Vikings. He was probably our number 1 threat that game over the middle. He got some nice catches, nice plays. Bowers really hasn't shown anything.
He had a big game on a super wide open like miscommunication and coverage, which, you know, again, he did when he was handed a gift and he slam dunked it, which is what you want. But I don't know if it was how much of it was him being a stud. That's something to follow.
Well, look at this. Deshaun Woods asked or said Bowers was still playing in the fourth quarter. Now, is that because we don't have a lot more tight ends, or do we showcase him for something? Or
Is he might be talking about Bauer, like the defensive end, to Sean Bauer.
I don't know. He said Bowers.
Either way.
He was saying boo earns. Boo earns.
Oh my God, RJ, that's 2 in a row, just dead. Like flatter than a bowl of piss, dude.
You guys just don't get my sophisticated sense of humor.
Is that what it is?
So O-line. Here's where it gets fun. Colton Miller. I think all 4 of these guys we keep. Whether I don't think Simpson may not start, but we're definitely keeping him. 4 keepers.
So those 4,
Parham
Illuminor,
for sure.
Parham,
Jermaine for sure.
and from what we saw today,
That's 6.
Barton. From what we saw
Dude.
today,
Jackson Barton. Jackson
Well,
Barton had
that's
a game
7.
today.
that's 7.
7 or 8.
We gotta have
Actually,
8. We have to
8
have
at least,
8.
right? 8
Yeah,
at least.
Bars has been good. Munford hasn't been all that great. He needs to be on the practice squad.
Yeah.
Meredith,
I think that's the
again,
only way
practice
Leatherwood
squad.
makes the squad. If it's like, all right, we keep at least 8, maybe 9. At least he's like healthy. It's like that keeps him above like Mumford and other guys.
Olaseni.
That's the
Olaseni
only
played
thing that
today.
keeps him.
Olaseni played today. Well, I'm not saying he's going to make the squad. What I'm saying is he played today, and he looked markedly better than Leatherwood.
I don't know
That's
about
how
that.
poor Leatherwood looked. Okay, well, let's watch the tape again. I'll show you. I'll
Sure.
show you examples, and we'll have a date. We'll make it a date.
Olaseni, I've kind of watched him all preseason. He's not where he needs to be. He's not going to be starting anytime soon, even as a backup.
Defense. Let's start with defense. Defensive line. Crosby, Nichols, Jones, Vickers, Farrell,
The fuck?
or wait, 1, 2.
Where's Hankins at?
Where am I going? Yeah, Hankins is IR, right?
No, he's
He's
back,
now.
right? Where is
Yeah,
he?
he's
This
back.
is the
Didn't
old-
update it. All right, so
Mhm.
So put Hankins here, right? This is our starting 4, right? Crosby, Hankins, Nichols, Jones, right?
Okay.
If
Yeah.
we're in a 4-3, that's our starting 4.
Mhm.
Keep Billings,
Pico.
Bauer,
Definitely after this preseason.
Okay.
Look,
Vickers,
you're
for
probably
me,
gonna keep
definitely.
Kuntz.
got to keep Kuntz. He's
Got to
developing
keep
well.
Kuntz.
Okay,
That's
so
7.
look, Farrell. Okay, Farrell, Vickers. That's 2.
This
Billings.
sure this fell, right?
That's 4. No,
Farrell Jr. or Farrell?
Farrell Jr.
Farrell Cat or Farrell Jr.
Cleveland Farrell again is another lost cause. He
Yeah.
just doesn't get it out there. It just doesn't look like it looks when other guys are playing.
Mm-hmm. He missed the entire preseason. This was kind of the make it or break it. I will say Butler and Farrell have sort of been up and down. Like, they're not going to be sort of more than a rotational piece at best. Like, they're not going to get snaps over Vickers. They're not going to get snaps over Billings.
Sean, what's
So
a
I
good
wouldn't be
point?
surprised if one of those go.
Cleveland Farrell only played 2 series. That generally means that they're keeping him. I think he's an $8 million cap hit if we cut him.
God, it's so bad. These
Fourth
picks
overall,
are
baby.
so terrible.
Guaranteed
These
money.
picks are so
4th
fucking
overall. Linebacker. How many do we keep? 4? 4 in the practice and 1 or 2 in the practice squad?
It all depends on the wide receiver number.
Mhm.
The wide receiver, because of special teams, the wide receiver, linebacker, running back number, those are kind of like all kind of intertwined. Depending
Let's
on
say 4.
you want to do 4.
Let's say 4.
That's easy.
right?
Easy
Especially
4.
in 2022, right?
Exactly.
Brow,
that's what I was
Perryman,
gonna say.
Diablo, and Masterson. That's the best 4.
I would
by
agree,
far.
especially given the context of like a Jonathan Abram. He's going to spend most of his time near the line of scrimmage, I think. At which point you take the additional safety over another linebacker, and that's kind of how this is geared. Like, you wouldn't take Darien Butler over like a Roderick Teamer,
Maybe Butler's the practice squatter because he can fill in a lot of things. And then DBs. Yassine's on, Abrams on, Merrick on, Hobbs on, Mullen on. That's 5. Averett for sure. Is he a
Yeah.
bubble or is he for? He's
Yeah.
for
No,
sure,
he's
right?
for
That's
sure.
6. Amik.
Harmon,
Yeah, Harmon's
bubble?
pretty much for sure.
Harmon
7.
for sure. That's 7. If Harmon's for sure, that's 7. That's 7 DBs.
We'd probably be like 8 or 9 DBs.
So
We're gonna
think
Amik's,
so,
play a lot
too.
of
well, then
DBs.
Amik's number 8, right? Amik's definitely staying, even though he didn't play well. If we're keeping 8 or 9,
I don't know. What about
Teamer would be 9.
Teamer and Polomau are like that last 2 that are going to be there.
I think it's Teamer or Amik is what it's going to come down to, and I think they'll go with Teamer. But I don't know.
Yeah.
It's crazy
Who's
though.
better on special teams? Amik's out there on special teams.
Teamer is too though. Teamer's had some
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
And then this beautiful,
You know-
glorious special teams. Oh yeah, Daniel. Oh,
You know
yeah,
what's-
AJ. Oh yeah.
Before we
Trent.
move off of cornerbacks, Sam Webb is a dark horse to make this roster because he's had a really good fucking preseason.
Huh?
And everything about like the height, weight, the speed, the long arms, the big hands, like he is a sort of prototypical dude. And he's had some really fucking nice plays this preseason. So like I wouldn't be surprised if he sneaks on.
Can we jerk off to our special teams, please?
Yes.
Oh yeah, Daniel. Oh god, yeah. Oh AJ, your leg. Oh my god. Oh, Hunter Renfrow, punt returner. Oh, that's smart. I like that.
Hey,
Trent.
did you happen to hear what Tim Brown said about special teams, Rory?
I did. I mean, you guys aren't going to move me off this. Like, it is what it is. It's and 85% of the nation agree with me as well. So you can both move.
Yeah, it's stupid putting the ball in the hands of your best players. Why would you want to do something like that?
Yeah, I mean, you could get injured on special teams, but
Let's take a couple.
whatever.
RJ, pull your pants up. Okay.
That's an odd one.
Steve, the cockfighter. What are you doing? Get the fuck off
Sorry.
my shit. God damn it, Soto. Stop fucking
I'm
with
trying
me.
to put it back on here.
Steve, the cockfighter. 1. Can't believe Steve, the cockfighter was already taken. This high-power offensive mastermind hasn't looked too hot this preseason. Maybe Brady can still come to Vegas. You're shaking your head, Rory.
Steve the Cockfighter doesn't appear to make good decisions in life. And that's evident by the fact he just, he thought it was a good idea to comment that. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? And who the fuck, by the way, would want Brady in silver and black? Like, I'm glad this just got brought up.
I think.
I just brought this up. I mean, I'm glad this just came up.
Dana
There is
White,
no other fucking player in the NFL, regardless of how good he'd make us, that I'd want to see in silver and black. Period. Even if he made us an instant Super Bowl contender, I would never, ever, ever want to see that motherfucker. And Gronkowski as well. That's like the 2 least favorite people on the planet, and them in silver and black makes me, I don't know, want to jump off a fucking bridge.
Wow.
You want Tuck Rule Tommy? Getting all the calls going his way.
Fuck that.
Getting everyone going.
No, thank you.
Low Raider, what's Leatherwood's cap hit if cut? 11 million. 11.7. That's how bad we hate him when we're like, yeah, it's still worth it. Maybe the draft can go back to like the 1950s when it was like a 20-round draft and we can get like a 17th round pick for him. Something like that.
Dude, it's
gonna be like it's gonna be like trading away like Jared Goff, where it's like, here's the player and here's money to get him off of our books. Like we're not gonna get anything for Leatherwood. We're gonna have to like pay and hope. But also like we think of all the ways John Gruden got duped by other GMs and coaches in the league. You only need one guy, right? Where's Tom Cable now? Anyone know where Tom Cable's playing right now or coaching right now?
got his feet up somewhere, I think. Let's see.
He's somewhere. Maybe he'll pick up. Maybe he'll be like, "Hey, let's risk it. Let's risk a conditional for him."
He's working. He's
True.
coaching in the XFL.
Of course he is.
No, I don't know.
You seen that for
I'm
real?
looking. No, I'm looking right now. Hang on.
Wikipedia. He
Nowhere.
was the
Nowhere.
offensive coach for the Raiders.
Nowhere.
We just gotta wait for Cable to get picked up somewhere, and
XFL.
then
I'm telling you, he's gonna poach
try
the
to
XFL.
get Leatherwood there. Can we get
He
anything from the XFL? Can they pick up his contract? Can we do something like that?
There's got to be like an ex-Alabama offensive coach that's been picked up by an NFL team that might be willing to take a flyer on him.
Do you think anyone from Alabama even wants to get within arm's reach of Leatherwood right now? They're like, oh fuck.
For a conditional 7th rounder?
I wouldn't give a fucking sack of shit
He's
for that guy.
Again, he's a second-year player. Like, I'm with you. Fucking awful. But, like, is it impossible for a guy with those physical skills coming from that big of a college to develop into something usable? Is it impossible? No. It's just a matter of, and this always happens, right? Like, we just have such a bad taste in our mouth for how bad he's played for us. And, of course, being drafted as our first rounder always makes it worse when they're that bad, right? Like, there's guaranteed there's an O-line coach somewhere in the NFL, a GM somewhere, and an assistant scout somewhere that's like, hey, conditional 7th rounders throw around like after dinner mints. Like, let's. I think we can develop this guy. I think we can do it. He feels like a Pats guy. He feels like someone the Pats would pick up and turn into like a decent backup. Right?
I don't know, man.
Yeah, possibly.
Look,
Let's hope so.
even if not, look, are we in the business of making sure that we don't waste money on cap, or are we in the business of putting together the best team out there?
It's the same thing. It's literally the same thing.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
To you, it
Literally
is.
the same thing.
Because you care more about dead money than you do about winning football games.
Says who? Because I'm trying to get something out of Leatherwood? Like I'm making a pitch that Leatherwood could be like
Somebody
still
still has to want him, RJ.
Josh Rosen is on his 6th fucking team. 6th. We knew after the first team he was on, when he went to the Cardinals, we knew this guy's not an NFL quarterback. He's on his 6th team. You're telling me Leatherwood can't get on a second team in his 2nd year? Think big picture, Soto. 2nd team. He hasn't even started his 2nd season. He hasn't played one snap in his 2nd season yet. You're telling me everyone is going to completely give up on somebody like that?
Look, why would you give that up for such a low probability? If he's out there and you can get him, fine. If not, I'm going to sleep well if I'm another team. I'm not going to lose sleep over not getting Alex Leatherwood because somebody picked him up before I could get him.
No one's losing sleep over shit. But these are all
But that's what you're making it seem like.
There's
Why
thousands of players
trade anything for him when you can pick him up off the scrap heap? Is he that big of a deal?
I'm saying of the 31 other teams, someone's going to look at a guy with those physical tools and that pedigree and think, I can turn him into something.
If he's a free agent and available.
Conditional.
No, not for a 7th round conditional.
It's possible. So. It's unlikely, but possible.
Possible with some sort of salary middle ground. Right? Some sort of salary middle ground.
You know, realistically, if he does get cut, I do think a team picks him up. But is a team going to trade for him? Not so much.
Dude, fucking Jimmy G's still out there with all these quarterback needy teams, and they wouldn't trade for him.
Yeah, because he's making $27 million a year, whatever his number is. That's why.
He's also playing quarterback. And he's actually a good player. He can actually start on your team. And people are waiting for him to hit the scrap heap.
What did you guys make of Josh McDaniels' play calling this preseason?
I loved it. I'm into it. My only concern going into this season is that there wasn't really any adjustments at any point. Both offensively and defensively, you saw a play get called, and they never checked out of that play. They never checked into a different anything. You know, this was the play that was called, and they were going to run it no matter what the offense showed, whatever the defense showed. Mm-hmm. So with a new team like this, a new coaching staff, are they going to be able to communicate effectively? Is everyone going to get lined up on time and in the right spot? That's what we didn't see this preseason. But in terms of everything else, his mix of run and pass, his situational football, the red zone offense, the red zone defense, everything was much improved across the board.
I thought he was pretty conservative in the red zone, especially today. Back-to-back run plays.
No, I think he has been pretty conservative in the red zone. I think just outside of the red zone,
it's his homage to Gruden. It's like, oh, Gruden, you're still here. Your shadow is still cast over the silver and black. 3 run plays.
Yeah, it's been effective though.
I think in the 40, on the 40-yard line going in, he's been a lot more aggressive, but in the red zone, he's been less aggressive.
Any takeaways that we've seen from the defense over the last 4 preseason games?
Tight. They know where they're supposed to be. Tight butthole. They know where they're supposed to be. They don't make mistakes. They make the play when it's there. You know, a couple of knuckleheads here and there missing tackles, but that's going to be cleaned up. Either they're going to be on the bench or not on the roster. I think the guys showed up that needed to. We got a couple of surprises out there. I don't know. I like it. I think we look solid.
Matt Millen said today, he's like, that's really good defense. And then a couple plays later, it was, that's really great defense. Like, how many times did we hear that this preseason? And it was just, sound plays from players looking to make a team, but executing exactly how they're supposed to be, on time, in the right place at the right time, breaking the right way. I was really impressed. As I said, I can't remember a preseason that was this positive, not just because of 4-0, but because of how they played.
Can we just acknowledge that the real MVP today was Rich Gannon, the Silver Fox? Seen that guy now? Solid white.
He's embracing it. Makes him look tanner. Makes him look more tan.
Right? It just looks distinguished. You know what I mean? What's the guy from Mad Men that just had the pure white hair that just was banging everybody, like the son of the owner?
I never saw one episode of that show.
Oh, it's a good show. I highly recommend it. All right, so the Raiders improved to 4-0 in the preseason. Again, record not such a big deal as much as we know who's got to go, who's got to stay. General team culture elements, right? low penalties, low turnovers, guys sticking together, things that was our strength at the end of last season. Not low turnovers and low penalties, but just like a team that kind of came together. That's starting to come in here. So Raiders beat the Patriots 23-6. We're technically 3-0 against the Pats already with 2 joint practices and a preseason game. We will find out what the 53-man roster is on Tuesday. So we will record our big podcast show Tuesday night. We normally record it Wednesday night and have it come out Thursday. We're going to do it a day early so we can immediately react to the 53-man roster and find out who is going to take us to the Super Bowl. Until then, knock on wood if you're with me.